Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hello, happy Friday, everyone. Today's the Lord. Okay. Today's guest is Joan Perry, and she has a podcast called The Heroine's Journey, Become the Heroine of Your Own Life, and she's also written a book called The Heroine's Journey. Her website is The Heroine's Journey with Joan Perry. And on her podcast, they discuss women who have navigated profound life transitions, whether it's through divorce, career change, personal reinvention, or significant challenge, and emerged with wisdom, resilience, and a story that inspires. And let's see. The Heroine's Journey is the path of 13 steps for a woman on this uniquely powerful journey that leads her to her best self and a life of joy, prosperity, and freedom. It's not the hero's journey. Oh no, this journey is unique to the personal path of growth a woman takes. This is an internal journey for a woman to claim her self-worth and her voice. The Heroine's Journey is a podcast dedicated to empowering women to navigate life's challenges and embrace their true selves. The show features inspiring stories and actionable strategies that encourage authentic living and personal growth. Each episode offers deep reflections to help listeners craft a fulfilling life. The podcast style is conversational and supportive, aiming to create a sense of community among listeners. Joan is rad. We had such a good conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. Okay, she's going to shout out a different link at the end of the episode for her book, but you can also retrieve that at the Heroines. Well, shit. I'll include Joan's website. It is walkthejourney.com. But there's also a free ebook you can sign up for on her site called The 4 Biggest Mistakes Women Make. There's some rad shit on her website, so you should definitely check it out. You're going to love this conversation. I know you're going to love Joan, and she's got good shit going on up in this. So, all right, here's me and Joan. Happy Friday. Hope it's fabulous.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? I'm good. Well, I'm so glad to have you on. I was reading your Podmatch page again. My eyes are burning. They've been doing this the last couple mornings from allergies. My bad.
Where do you live?
Oklahoma.
Mm.
Where are you?
California.
Okay, I thought maybe with the time difference. Yeah, so it seems like at least our shows are kind of similar, like just about kind of, well, I'm going to put it this way, becoming the hero in your own life.
Yeah. And
so,
you know what? I was thinking about it in return because emotionally unavailable is part of the heroine's journey.
Absolutely.
You're just so consumed that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the thing is that for me, I found like I had not a single clue that I was emotionally unavailable. Like I've told this story so many times on my show, so sorry audience, but it's just funny because I'm one of those people who will take a quiz. Like I'm bored, I'm on Facebook and it's like, take this quiz, right? I've taken, are you a narcissist? Are you in an abusive relationship? Like I'll just take a quiz. And this was about emotional availability. And it said I was not emotional available. And I was like, huh. So I texted another social work friend. And I was like, do you think I'm emotionally unavailable? And she was like, yeah. And I said, oh, wow. Okay, well, this is a new concept for me. Can you give me an example? And she said, the way you retell trauma. And I was like, so offended by that because my trauma was a stand-up act. it. I had it all hilariously played out, and I was so detached from those stories whenever I was telling them. I could, it was just not even me that experienced it whenever I was sharing those stories in the way that I was sharing them. And now that I am so in touch with me and every previous version of me, it can be difficult for me to share those stories without a lot of emotion. I mean, it's not hard for me to share, but I also know with the way the world is emotionally unavailable, they're not comfortable. They want to hear it the way I was telling it. That's the truth. And that's why I did it, because that earned me love, affection, and approval, validation, acceptance, belonging. But when I tell those stories with my full chest, people are uncomfortable.
Yes, definitely.
I love the heroine's journey, because becoming a hero in our own life really means so many things. What is your journey? What's it been for you?
Well, here's the thing too I wanted to say, and that's that the journey of the heroine is we're on right now, right?
Yeah.
The journey of the heroine is to go from being the victim to the heroine. And just that simple statement is what you were describing. Before, you were being the victim. You were able to tell the story, but it was detached. Okay. The heroine embraces her story, makes lemonade out of lemons, and sees that not as a disaster, but as a gift that now she is prepared to share with the world in a different way. So I just think, it's as simple as victim is emotionally unavailable. It's not bad. It's just who you become as a victim. Whereas heroine, you step into your strength, your power, your whatever. So,
and you also realize that the things that you viewed as weaknesses were your magic all along.
I always say that, Melissa, because I look back, and when I went through my first divorce, I was like, this is the worst thing that ever could happen. I hate this, like I don't want this to happen. And then as soon as you get some distance out, then you're like, thank God that happened, because I could so not be the person I am today. I would be living small compared to the journey I've taken.
Right.
And I actually I spent some time being thankful for those difficulties, because I was a hard nut to crack. Like I knew how to do it. I engineered my life. I was going to have safety and security. I knew. And there is a power out there that's greater than us. We call it the universe or God.
Whatever you want to label it. Yep.
That had to smack me up on the back of the head with a 2x4 and say, hey, Joan, you are not so in control. You maybe don't know where you're going and what I have in mind for you. And let me get your attention so that we can start to talk here, because you're ignoring me.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, see, in my belief in the heroine's journey, I believe that we do everything up until the start of the heroine's journey, and we'll describe that, to create safety and security.
Sure.
And that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the gifts or the path that you're supposed to take in life.
Right. Oh, why am I echoing? I'm going to turn my volume down a little bit, see if that helps.
Okay.
Were you hearing the echo?
No.
Okay. Well, that doesn't seem to matter. A lot of time, great. I'm glad, but then I hear it in the freaking recording, and I'm like, oh, why did that happen? Yeah, I think all that fear. What is like so prominent in my head right now that I can't like shove to the side, so I'm gonna say it, is all the experiences that I utilized, that fear, that deep fear, all the fears that I brought with me to any circumstances, and let that drive all of the thinking, all of any feelings that I did have. I didn't know how to experience a feeling, so I was intellectualizing all of my experiences. But right now I have a friend going through a breakup, and he's a male friend, and of course called me all upset, whatever, and we talked. And then now for days, there's been lots of posts on every social media from him addressing the ex because she won't talk to him. And I'm just looking at this situation as an outsider, remembering the times I was inside of that doing similar things. And I think the difference in me now and how I would have handled it the same way as him is now I would just acknowledge I'm feeling loss. I'm feeling rejection. I'm feeling abandoned. I'm feeling neglect. I'm feeling betrayed. And I would work through those as they arose and feel them and then pass them off until the next time they came up. I would be sad, yes. But I'm in such alignment in my life that I would just deal with what's in front of me, which is I feel this, but I got to keep moving forward. And I think that's the biggest difference that we're selling in our experiences versus what other people are maybe experiencing. They are allowing all of this prior knowledge to fuel really self-sabotaging thoughts that manufacture emotions. Those emotions wouldn't even be there if your thoughts weren't driving all of them, you know?
I would add one more to that. See
Yes.
if you relate to this. I was pissed.
Yes. Oh, honey, let me just tell you, that was my baseline. I was pissed from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep all the time.
And that fueled what you just described, first of all. And secondly, when I really looked at it and said, what am I pissed about? I was pissed to be single again and have to go back into the dating market. I was pissed that to go back into the dating market, you had to lose 20 pounds. You know, I was pissed.
All of the things. I'm not good enough for the dating market. What the fuck? Yeah.
I was pissed that my vision of life that I had made and engineered was that just suddenly vanished. Because that's what happens when on the heroine's journey. You know that the point of the start of the heroine's journey is a major crisis in your life. And it's going to occur in one of four areas. It's either going to be relationship, as we're just discussing, which is divorce or any other relationship breakup. It's going to be financial, like, you know, you ran against a wall financially. It's going to be physical, or it's going to be the beliefs that you have about yourself.
Right. Some sort of catalyst.
Or a combination of all of them. But
yeah, I've been really lucky to have a combination of all of them.
And another part that made me pissed, quite frankly, I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Smart and capable, and
that level of betrayal that you feel when it didn't meet your expectations, when it did not match the vision that you firmly created, you know, that level of betrayal, it's hard. It's hard, especially when you don't recognize betrayal. It took me so long to recognize it.
I didn't think anybody could betray me. I was doing everything to be like, you know, the best of the best of the best.
Yeah.
You know, and I just could not imagine, you know, I would say to the ex, like, we have a great life. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, but as much as I wanted the world to conform to me, it didn't. My vision
You're
just
speaking my language, Joan. I wanted the world to conform to me too.
My world just blew up and it was out of my control. And all of a sudden I felt like an onion that had been pulled back to the little seed in the middle of it.
Yes. And
I was stripped.
That bare state, just if you even think like trying to apply like literal things, you kind of do feel naked, alone, afraid, shivering, like everything's off and you can't figure out which part you need to address first.
I was literally afraid to open my front door, that there might be some aggressive monster on the other side of it.
Yeah, you get that way, man. Well, because when you are betrayed in a major way, you're hit with the fact that like, well, shit, I don't actually have any control over anything. And we haven't quite learned that the part we get to control is the way we react or respond. So like, we're just stuck and we're like, this world is unsafe. I can do everything they told me to do and still end up fucked, you know?
That's right. That's right. And the thing of it is that you're so stuck because none of what you used to do in the past works now.
Exactly. God, I love the way you put that. But it's true because you're a new you and everything kind of sucks at first. You don't get any of it. You're like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't used to do that.
It's like you just came to this world, and by the way, they didn't send you with a manual.
It is, you feel so alien because it's not you. Like your nervous system's all wrecked and your emotions are all over the place. You don't know how to feel them, you don't know how to identify them, and you're like, just stop.
Yeah, because you don't even have a vision to work off of. And you can't stay there.
Right. You're
That's
like
the hard part.
I totally get it. Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, that was a part that kind of really ate me up because I've always, my vision includes a purpose.
Me too.
I really believe that I came to this planet with gifts, that God fully informed me, and I'm here to live out my gifts. And I was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a dual hurt because on the one hand, I was stuck and nothing worked. And on the other hand, I had this thing I had to do on this earth.
Right.
And
I resonate with that.
I was like, who am I here and how do I go forward and what do I do?
Mm-hmm.
I like to think of it this way, Melissa, as I write about the heroine's journey in my book. If you can imagine a cart, the kind that are wood and they're nicely patinaed and, they've got this bed in the back. And here we are, we're putting it's got beautiful flowers in the back because the beautiful flowers are your skills, your tools, your talents, everything you are as a human being that you want to take to the world. You want to pull that cart down the road so that you can get it to the market and monetize those beautiful flowers that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But you're driving along and you look over your shoulder and you're like, that wheel's loose. And then you look over this shoulder and you go, oh my God, that wheel fell off.
Yes.
And pretty soon your ass is dragging right on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And you get out of your cart and you try to push it and you try to pull it, but the ass is on the ground.
It's on the ground.
You can't. So what is your first step? Your first step is to get your wheels back on the cart. And what are the wheels? The wheels are financial, physical, relationship, and self-worth. And I can tell you, I had to start with self-worth because I was saying, I'm just not good enough. I mean, it because I designed my life looking perfect on the outside.
Yep.
When that blew up, I was like, what's on the inside? And what I found is I just didn't have the scaffolding I needed. And I had to really sit with, wait a minute, I'm a good person. God gave me everything I need. I'm adequate. And the other thing I had to do was relationship, like divorce, that really caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And I had to start to look at who was I letting in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And oh God, everything I've ever done in relationships was related to the fact that I felt zero worth. And I was so not conscious of that. I really believed I had a pretty good self-efficacy and valued myself. And I think as a professional, in a lot of ways, I did, because that was the only thing that kind of gave me that external validation.
Exactly.
So once I got really comfortable in whatever role I was in, I felt pretty authentic and I felt pretty sturdy. But any of those structures going away, and then what?
Exactly.
And
then who are you?
Yeah. And so then I had to be like, oh, I have very literally attracted a lot of emotionally unavailable people, not just men, my friends too. That was why my feelings would get so hurt, because instead of being like, oh, I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry. I was told I was too sensitive by my friends. So, which was a huge trigger because that's what my grandma used to say. And just understanding how many times I hurt my own self by personalizing things or assigning the meaning that the meaning just was you did that because you didn't value me. And I just don't do that anymore because I value myself so highly that I'm like, I couldn't even care if that was the truth. But if it is, that's on them. Like that, everybody, I think what changed my entire paradigm was whenever I was like, oh, this really is just my world and everybody else is living in it. And that's what I'm in other people's lives. That's what I am. It's just a person orbiting their world and they are seeing things through their eyes. And it's also why we as women are so fucking good at seeing the potential in someone and taking them on as a project because we know what we are capable of and we just project all of that. I heard that and heard that and heard that. And it took a very long time to actually understand it. And then I was like, oh. And but then the flip side of that too is whenever I'm assuming really negative meanings applied to anyone else's behavior, it's because that's in me too. So like just learning all the ways that people really are just a damn mirror for us.
But also let's be practical. Okay. Practical is some people in your life can stay and some people need a boot right out the door.
They got to go.
Because if you start to raise that sense of self in yourself, you raised your standards.
Absolutely.
And recently in my life, there was someone who, as you, in your terms, wasn't sensitive, didn't have me in her world that she was considered. Well, I invest a lot of time and energy in my friends. So if it's not going to be reciprocal if there's no emotion on that side. And sometimes you stop trying and you realize there's nothing going on over there.
Absolutely. Oh, you're so right. And that's kind of where I've been at this part of my journey has been, I don't reflect a lot on my friendships just because I feel so fulfilled in what I'm doing that like they have to like create a space in my life anyway, because I just, for the first time, I'm really inwardly focused. I was always outwardly focused and taking care of everyone. And what I'm doing is so busy that I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I'm giving myself plenty of time to rest. People want to talk on the phone. I don't want to talk on the phone. I talk all day. You know, like I love to text, but I wouldn't mind even talking on the phone when I'm available. But like if you call and I'm in a rest period, I have to take that seriously because these exchanges, there's a lot of energy. You know, there's because this isn't surface shit to me. Like we're getting into like the soul of who we are. So sharing that with someone else requires a lot. You show up in a different way. So I don't feel like having meaningless conversations about how much you hate your job just because you want to bitch about it. You know, I'm sorry. But that's where I've been, is really reflecting my role in the breakdown of a lot of my friendships, most of them, in fact. And but also becoming a little more content with my limited circle, because I refuse to lower my vibrations to be in the presence of someone else. And Joan, I have found sometimes high vibe shit repels those people. I mean, they don't know what to do with me now. That's the truth. I don't fit in their box at all.
And the thing of it is, what you said is give your permission. And I said this to someone the other day, and we were talking about this, and she said, my circle's getting smaller. Well, when you start to raise your standards and you start to look at the energy that's coming to you and how you're reacting and living with these people, it will get smaller for a while.
Yeah. And now the most beautiful thing is, though, is like it's getting bigger, but it's all like, you know, these people like you know, people I'm meeting through this. But I'm like, that's so beautiful too. Like I'm creating a network of people that are aligned with me. And also that gets me out of my comfort zone because it's going to force me to travel if we ever want to like see each other in person, things like that. There's just a lot of things that are happening now that show me like, yes, that time of loneliness did hurt you. And it was important for me to see what I was doing wrong too, because I was doing a lot wrong. Like I was constantly pushing people away because I wanted to reject them before they could reject me. And what I viewed as boundaries was really just a fortress to keep people out. Yeah. I could never have known that because I really thought I was, all emotional. No, I was a bitch and I was triggered all the time, but I could not share in real time. Not that this is like a ton easier for me now. It's still a struggle, but to share in real time, like, that felt yucky. I didn't like how that felt when that happened. It's hard for me. But at the time, what I would do is pretend like things were fine, go home, overthink about it, probably send a very well-crafted text so that like I didn't look bad. And also there was nothing they could argue with. But like emotionally unavailable people become very defensive. So they can argue with it. And they did. So there was just all this like hurt in that space where it could have just been like me in the moment being like, I don't like that. And understanding that's going to feel like abandonment and rejection to them. So I can just sit for a minute through that while they're working that out. Because if you give people that grace, most of the time, once they react poorly, then they're like, okay, shit, I'm sorry. And not everyone deserves that from you. I will say that. But the people that you're really close to, I've found that because I do that shit too and become defensive, I was like, oh, I guess I got to be nice. Okay, great. But when they do that, and then that next minute, they're like, shit, I'm sorry. You're right. Then that's how I know now, like, this is safe. Like, not because like you don't have to respond appropriately initially as long as you get it. Like, and you go, I understand what that was. And also I understand that I just did that poorly and I'm sorry.
Exactly. And here's the people you want around you. We teach a really fun system in the book called the sticker system. I won't go into it completely, but I'll give you a piece of it right now. And that's that we call them green and yellow people. You want green and yellow people around you because the green and yellow people, they don't necessarily get it at the beginning, but they'll let the truth land on them. And when they do, they'll either start to smile or laugh or something because they'll be like, yeah, you got me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I get it. In other words, they're flexible to hear what you're messaging. Now, we call the red and the orange people. Those are the people you don't want around you. And the reason why is that when the truth lands on them, they blame, push away, frown. They literally frown.
Yeah.
Because it's nothing about them. And here's the real problem is that you cannot talk them into thinking that it's about them.
Right. Right. At all.
So there are some people, much as you'd love to have kumbaya and love and, embrace and all that kind of stuff, because we all want to be loved deeply. But there are some people that you can't relate to in a way that they're going to take it on personally.
Well, and this is the thing too, is like low vibe people who just don't have an identity outside of their children or their relationship or maybe their job. But I do find it's like the lowest vibe women that I have been around. This is going to sound incredibly offensive, but are the women who only have an identity as a mother and they haven't cultivated any parts other than that. Because when I'm in the presence, it's just this nonstop negative comparison, and it is an instant repel for me. And I've talked about this just a little bit recently, but I like don't volunteer. My youngest is the only one who's still like in school doing that kind of stuff. She's in 5th grade, but I don't do shit at her school because I went one time and interacted with a mom that was just pissing me off because I was like, I just want to be here to show up for my kid. I don't want this negative interaction. Like, we don't have to get deep at PTO functions at all. That's fine. But like, I'm also not going to talk shit and complain the way women were socialized
to connect. That's
Yeah.
what we're taught. And all emotionally unavailable people only connect through talking shit and complaint. I don't want to do that. I just want to, I was just doing a little snack cart. Just let me do that. Like, I don't want to talk to you if this is the only way you know how to connect with people. And also you're then trying to get into some weird competition with me. I don't care. I don't care at all about you, your kid, anything. I'm just here to do me.
Yeah, exactly. And let's put it in perspective. Okay. Everybody hides for the period of their life where they're trying to control, engineer, and craft their life and have you only see what's on the outside and not see.
Absolutely.
And we all pick different ways to hide.
Guilty.
Some people won't use their voice. Some people will talk shit just to take the attention off themselves. And then we reach this point where something major happens in our life, and we call it the heroine's journey. It's the major upset. You get stripped to your core at that point.
Yeah.
And from that point on, you're called to your authenticity.
Absolutely.
So what is your authenticity? Your authenticity is about showing up who you really are. And here's what happened. In the past, you had a vision. That whole vision got blown out of the water. Now you've got a new vision. As you move through the heroine's journey, you start to create a vision from a place of authenticity and not from engineering. So now you get this new vision. And when you're in that new vision, you want to call new people.
Yes.
That vision.
Yes.
And you don't want to go back to that hiding behavior. Because first of all, it usually happens in midlife or later. And so you're like, I don't have too much more of life to live. I want to live in my joy, my prosperity, and my freedom.
Absolutely.
I don't want to live in chains.
Yes. Oh my God. What a weird ass confirmation. This is all the shit I've been posting about in the last week is like, I use the word chains, like, but it's so true. And also weirdly enough, I was just telling my husband yesterday, because I've woken up a couple of mornings with some weird thoughts, fearing like my mortality, like really sad that my kids are going to watch me get older. I don't know where it came from. I don't care. I don't want it. But I was like, ooh, get out of bed and go do something different. But I was telling him about it yesterday, and I was like, I mean, I'm going to be 45 this summer, and there's a chance I don't live past like 75. 30 years, like if 45 years has passed this fast, 30 years is nothing. And so I'm trying to maximize and make sure that I live this next whatever years I have left. I mean, shit, I could die tomorrow. Who knows? But I want to make sure that every day is spent the way I want to spend it.
In conversation, I don't want to jump into somebody else's drama. I don't want to jump into somebody's criticism. Even, lately I've been thinking, I listen to people criticizing and whatever. I'm like, so what is your plan?
Right.
I don't care that you want to intellectualize about what you think's going on. Yes. This is just a form of masturbation.
Yes. God, yes. God, yes.
I want to, what is your plan? What God sent you here with gifts, skills, tools, and obviously you're enacting your plan because you've done quite a few podcasts. So, you have a real plan and desire to help people live into their joy, prosperity, and freedom. But what is your plan? What are your resources? What are your skills to gather and to start to do something that we can all say, hey, look, this is what she's doing.
Right.
And while I'm going to circle back to what you were saying about, I think raising children is a big job. However, I think that we come with our own skills and talents. And the part of the heroine's journey, whether you've had that role of raising kids or not, is to start to look within and say, but what does blossoming fully look like for me?
Right.
What does it look like for me to show up with a plan, for me to
give yourself permission to do that? Absolutely. Exactly. Yeah, because I was the woman who didn't have an identity outside of children, and then my identity was children and college student, and then it was children and social worker. my identity as a wife has never really meant that much to me. It's just like, because like my grandma, that was one of the only positive things she would say is like proud of me being married. And I was like, but it didn't fucking take shit to get married and have a kid. Like that, what accomplishment is that? Like, shut up. But I don't know. I don't really identify that much like in my wife role. I don't know. It just doesn't, that sounds terrible. But when you make your children your identity, you are now treating them as if, and this is the way I was treated, as if they are an extension and reflection of you. And everything you do with them relates back to you that way. And what I've learned after all of these revelations and realizations is like, oh shit, okay, I definitely see where I fucked up, because I don't want to cultivate any sort of paranoia about what people are thinking about you, or what, like, I am fully, thank God the third kid's got the worst version of me, but now she's getting the best version of me too. So like, that's good. But like, wear what you want to wear. I don't care if people think that we don't have something based off what you're doing or what, like, I'm not going to allow myself to lean into my own fear and shame and let that be reflected on this human who's just here and trying to learn and grow and make mistakes. And I have to allow that. Like, failures are the only way to succeed, to get to that like level of success that you want. I have to like cultivate an environment where it's safe to fail and safe to have big feelings and all of those things. And if you have made that child your whole identity, you're going to fuck them up so bad, because if all roads lead back to you, then, well, you need to do this for me.
We did a whole podcast on identity, because I think that it's now time for women to ask the big questions. And that's what the heroine's journey calls. Yes. And the big questions to me are like, do you own your own life? Or does your husband, your employer, your family own your life, and you don't get to own your own life? Well, first of all, do you own your own life? Another good question is, what is success for a woman? I think it's different than what it is for a man.
Me too.
And then another big question we ask is, where does your identity come from? And if your identity is totally built on the success of your child or the success of your job, all those outward things that I built my identity on for the first half of my life, if one of them collapses, guess what? I had this vision of like this brick wall, and we just pulled a brick out of the middle of it.
Yes, absolutely. If one little thing shifted, we were fucked.
Yeah, and now I work really hard on that fourth wheel, which is, what's your self-worth? Are you growing your self-worth? And some days my day is not filled with successes. But at the end of it, I still look at me, and I still love me for all the gifts God gave me, for the mistakes I've made that I get to learn from the major, vision collapses in my life. Nobody goes through this perfectly. We all go through. And if you don't own your own life, the heroine's journey is going to show up and suggest to you, hey, this is your life. Because when you get to the end of it, you want to say, I owned it. I did it. I used my gifts.
Yeah.
I believed in my authenticity. I am becoming the best version of me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that was a gift that I really received from losing my dad at such a young age, because it created this sort of paranoia of like, everybody dies, so who's next, but it also, I remember at 15, just kind of looking around at my peers being like, y'all don't really get it. Like, I've always been older than I needed to be, always. But that was one way that it showed up really positively for me, because I was like, I'm not going to waste my time getting really bogged down in this social bullshit of high school. Like, we aren't guaranteed our time here. And I have always, weirdly actually, but always been like, well, I've thought about my own funeral a lot throughout my lifetime, and like what I hope my impact on this earth has been. So even in the worst of my worthiness or worst of my identity issues, I still had this north that's really still relatively the same. Like I feel lucky because I felt a calling and a purpose from a very young age because I was raised in some real traumatic shit. So I knew I had a purpose, and it was going to be to experience some shit, go through it, and then share. Like I'm getting really comfortable in my story because I know that's where all my gifts and my magic is sharing those stories.
Making lemonade out of lemons.
And so I feel lucky in that way.
You look back, you're like, oh, thank you for teaching me that. Thank you. I mean, one thing that it did for me to go through all that shit is I have such a bigger sense of compassion.
Yeah.
Than what I ever had before.
Were you such a judgmental bitch before? Because I was.
Because I needed to be perfect. And so you're judging everything else.
Yeah.
But you know, as soon as I got hit by that 2x4 and I was sitting flat on my ass. In fact, a story is that a friend of mine, it was divorce and I lost my house, and you know, the stories. Here's the interesting thing, Melissa. This is fascinating to me. In my work in the heroine's journey, what I learned is that the plot line is the same for all of our lives. It's just the stories that are different. Yeah. So women have been telling their stories for a long time without realizing that there's an underlying plot line. And when you understand the underlying plot line in the heroine's journey, which is what I've written, you understand what your next step is.
Yes.
You understand what the way forward looks like. You understand what it means to own your own life. And these are discussions that, because women have been cast mostly by society and culture in the victim role, you know, the victim role doesn't ask us to ask those questions.
Right.
So understanding that there is a way forward for me has been huge.
Yeah, to never feel so stuck like you did before. Yeah, I totally get that. Because when you do find alignment and authenticity, self-love, self-compassion, self-worth, then you're able to define what your non-negotiables are. And you say, well, if this is my non-negotiable, there will probably have to be sacrifices made on my part to not have to engage in one of these non-negotiables. And that's okay. Like sometimes, like for instance, I'm like, I can't have a boss. I'm at this age. I can't. I have no respect for authority. It's been that way for a minute. I can't have a boss. That means I'm going to have to sacrifice some income until I make my entrepreneurship at the level that I want it to be. That's fine. I'm living the fucking life I designed. Is it the income that I want right now? No, but it's getting there. And I am solid in the knowing that I feel supported in these endeavors. That for me is the biggest gift that you can have by believing in some higher power, whatever you want to believe. I feel fundamentally supported because everything I'm doing is in alignment with this passion and purpose that I have. So where am I going to go wrong? Where am I going wrong?
And there's no better place to live life than from that.
Yes, no, all the things we did before to try and manufacture peace. Shit. I on my worst days, I know exactly how to get into the energy I want. I know, you know, I used to battle my brain through all the intellectualization and just those thought spirals that you can get in just to avoid your heart space, you know, all that. I was in my brain all the time, devastating myself. And now, like I said, I woke up the other morning just with that thought and I was like, this isn't good for me. Let's go do something else. So, you know, I learned how to get into any feeling that I want to feel at any time. Can't go wrong from there. Like, that's way better than all the things I was doing to try to numb before.
Yeah. And the person that you'd met in the school that was dragging you into a conversation that you didn't want to be in, now you look at her with compassion.
Right.
She's on her journey, but she's just back here. And you look at her with compassion. You don't have to engage in the conversation. But you ask
I'm not going to go to the school anymore because they're full of people like that. But I don't.
But you ask a great question. Like, you know, what gift, you know, what of your gifts are you using today? Or what's your plan? Or, I mean, questions to me are so fun. You know, I have a sign that resides by my computer. It says, live in the questions, not in the answers.
Ooh, I like that.
If you ask her a question, you're going to start to make her brain start to work. And she's going to feel, because here's the deal. None of us can escape this energy motion that is moving us forward to our best selves.
Mhm.
We're like roses that you can't say to a rose, don't bloom.
Right.
Roses
Ooh, I like
body.
this framing. I like that. Let me say this, because with my religious trauma, I was taught from birth I was never going to be worthy enough. Like, this is a gift that Jesus gave you, but you didn't deserve it. You don't earn it. You're a piece of shit, right? But try your best anyway.
Right?
Try your best to meet
bad
the standard,
programming.
but it's never going to
Bad
happen, right?
programming.
Exactly. So it's been a really hard shift for me to go, there's not a universe that exists that's waiting for me to have the wrong thought or make the wrong move or whatever so that it can fucking slam me to the ground. That's not what's happening. But I lived in that fear. Like that's something I'm slowly releasing because it's still sneaking up sometimes. But the way you are framing it, and this is the way I feel, and you put the loveliest words around it, is that it's just moving you towards the place you were always supposed to go. So of course, if it is moving you and it's flowing down this beautiful river of life, and you, with your free will, are fucking throwing in a dam here and there, you're going to get hit with resistance. I mean, that's what that is. You are creating your own resistance to you, the plan put forth on your life. It's not any universe or higher power that's pissed at you for doing the wrong thing. It is actually just trying to keep you moving in the right direction, but you're throwing a roadblock in. Oh, I fucking love that. Thank you.
And let me ask you this question to just give you another visual.
Yeah.
When you came roaring down the birth canal, think of yourself roaring down the birth canal, slipping and sliding to get out. Was there someone at the end of the line with 2 stamps, approved, rejected?
Right.
All babies are approved. They come perfectly.
Right.
It's only the silly shit that we plaster all around ourselves. The brain that wants to keep you safe, and it's got that constant chatter going on about this. Here's what I do. I have a keyboard, okay? When I hear that shit in my brain, I say, delete. Because I know it doesn't serve me for my self-worth or my best self.
Right. And also, your brain's going to do it. It's capable of thinking anything. It's going to do that. And when you get really comfortable with the fact that your brain's a fucking liar, you can just go, oh, I don't know why that happened. Because used to, I'd latch on. I'd be like, yeah, let's really go to shit on this, you know? And now I'm like, oh, honey, I don't know what. Like, I'm very aware that my thoughts are going to be a little shitty during PMS and on my period. Like, every time I have PMPD, it's hateful and ugly. And every month for my entire life, it's been like this. So I know when those thoughts start, I don't have to analyze them. I don't have to question them. I can literally just get rid of them because they're lying to me the way they've always lied, but I used to believe them.
But that's only one step. There's a second step. And we teach a lot of this in the heroine's journey. The first step is to recognize it and realize that it's not true. Okay. The second step is to reframe it, to say, you know, oh, that person doesn't love me. Reframe it in a way that you can say, I'm full of love, and I hope to share it with that person so they can feel it.
Yeah.
You know, it's an act of reframing in your brain that puts you in that space of self-worth. You know, like, money's too hard to get. Oh no, I came with all these gifts and skills fully approved. If I just use my gifts, that's a natural thing. It will come to me.
Yeah. And I mean, your perception is your reality. Something that I started saying months ago was whenever I feel any sort of like rejection, I stop and immediately go, people choose me because I choose myself. And then it puts me in the energy that I want to be in. But also just like saying to yourself, everything works out for me. I love it. And I love when things happen that I get to like go, everything works out for me, because it's just this continual flow of really good energy, because I'm not walking around expecting all the worst shit to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're a perfect being blossoming into your perfect self. You know, if you could just say to the brain, like you said, don't put any dams in here, just get out of the way. I am naturally becoming. Like when I first went to work, I spent my career on Wall Street trading bonds.
Wow.
Okay, that is so not where my gifts lie.
Exactly.
I thought I had to engineer myself to be that. When I got out of my way, you know, I started to write books. I was like, where did that come from? I had a professor.
Right?
I had a professor in college who said to me, "You're a writer." And I'm like, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm a biology student."
Oh.
You know, because I thought I had to be biology or financial or something. I started the first female investment banking firm in the country. I did the financial thing. But when I let my true self emerge, I, like, all these years later, I went back to the college and took them a copy of my book and said, "You were so right. I couldn't see it." But if you let yourself blossom into ways that you can't even imagine what they are, because it's not your job to do that.
Right.
It's your job to get your antenna up, listen carefully, feel into what it is that you're supposed to be doing or becoming. Stay in your own lane, not comment on somebody else or get into their drama or whatever.
Yep.
Stay in your lane, make your plan, become the person you're supposed to become. Actively ask, what am I here to contribute?
Right. Well, and that just makes me think like you're shifting where your certainty lies, because we like certainty a lot. And in our human brain, we like to see it all on paper and see how it's going to unfold and get some real guarantees. When you become more comfortable in the certainty that you are in alignment and doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, and everything else can just kind of unfold, and you don't have to have all of the proof to take one step at a time, that's when the magic happens. You give the opportunity for magic to happen because you're not trying to control everything to death.
Okay, so again, let's put it in perspective. The first steps of the heroine's journey are to create your stability. That's get your wheels back on your cart. That's live within your means. That's do everything to make your life force energy strong. It's choose good people in your life and edit what's going on in your brain so that you keep your self-worth. Get those wheels back on the cart. Once you get the wheels on the cart, then you can move to the next stage, which is to awaken your authenticity. Now, I'm going to tell you here that you're in prostitution until you get the wheels on the cart. You cannot be authentic because you have to do something you don't want to do if you don't have the wheels on your cart to compensate. You marry the person you don't want to marry, you take the job you don't want to take. You do something so that until you get stable in the first step, you're always confronted with prostitution. The second step is awaken your authenticity. Once you can awaken your authenticity, then you have the ability to move to the third step, which is light up your expression. That means take those gifts and let them shine, baby. And then the fourth step is make your contribution. But you have to build it on those steps. Like I hate it when I hear that said to women, get empowered. Because how does a woman get empowered?
Right.
Well, she gets empowered by getting those wheels on her cart. Because once the wheels on her cart, she can move the cart down the road. Okay? If the wheels are not on the cart, you can find yourself in one gutter or another. And boy, in my life, I just bounced between gutters for a long time.
Girl, me too.
I was like, oh my God, you know, I got out of that gutter and just threw me into this one. But once I started, and even in life right now, if I'm not having a day that's going the way I think it, I ask myself, which area is it in? Did I not get enough sleep last night?
Yes.
You know, does my checking account not have enough money in it? Because I'm, you know, thinking that shopping is my life's work. you know?
Felt.
So to grow yourself the way you want to grow yourself in the work of the heroine's journey, which is to me been such a fascinating opportunity for me to get to do this. I'm so thankful. It's create your stability, awaken your authenticity, light up your expression, and make your contribution. That is the path of the heroine.
Well, I love it. I love the way you've laid it out. I've loved this conversation. I'm so glad we were able to connect.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for being on and sharing this.
You're so welcome.
I had such a good time with you.
I had such a good time with you too. You can get the book at heroinesbook.com. We currently have a free plus shipping offer. So I highly encourage everyone who's listening, go read the book because it's such a huge conversation, and it's been a pleasure to touch on it with you today. So thanks, Melissa.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure I include everything in the show notes, links and everything. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Be in touch with me if you need more.
Absolutely. I hope you have a great day.
Journey onward.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelissahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.